Log NF-309. Observation deck. Location, Seattle, Washington. Date, June 21st, 2021. Time, 23:37 Pacific Daylight Time. If you live in Seattle long enough, you get used to being watched. Cameras everywhere, people on the street. The looming Space Needle with its observation deck full of tourists. It didn't bother me. I always assumed I was too boring to watch. That changed last summer. I work in IT security for a downtown firm. We have cameras in our office, like every place does. They're there to deter theft and record if someone slips and falls. I'm responsible for reviewing footage when there's an incident. In June, we had a break-in at 2 a.m. Someone pried open the side door and rummaged through the storage room. Nothing was taken, but we needed the footage for insurance. I pulled it up. The cameras are motion activated, so you get short clips whenever something moves. Clicked through them, a raccoon at midnight, a janitor at 12:30, then at 2:02, the door opening slowly. The hallway camera activated. A figure stepped inside. It was me. I blinked. I rewound. It was undeniably me. My jacket, my posture, the way I rub my neck when I'm thinking. But I was in bed at home at 2 a.m. that night, sleeping beside my wife, as my phone and her memory confirmed. On the footage, I walked down the hallway, turned my head as if I was listening to something, then smiled slightly. My eyes reflected a brief flash from the camera. I disappeared into the storage room. A minute later, I stepped back into the hallway, looked directly at the camera, and raised my hand in a salute. It wasn't playful. It felt like a gesture made by someone who knows they're being watched. Then I slipped out the door. I sat back sweating. I rewound again, zoomed in, slowed it down. It wasn't a glitch. It was me. I could see the scar above my eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at 12. I could see the way my left shoulder drooped slightly. I was wearing the same jacket that was hanging in my closet at home. Checked the logs. No card swipe registered. The door sensor showed a forced entry. I called the police. They shrugged. They said sometimes people forget things. I didn't sleep that night. I called my building's maintenance supervisor. He said he'd come by. He brought a guy with him and introduced himself as being from an agency that worked with high-tech surveillance anomalies. He showed me a badge with 4 letters, ADRA. He asked to see the footage. I showed it. He watched silently, rewound, watched again. Has anything like this happened before? He asked. I said no. He nodded. Sometimes these things happen. They're usually one-offs. If it happens again, call me. He handed me a card with a number and a code. Observation Deck 12. It read. It happened again. A week later. Motion triggered by the camera at 3:12 a.m. The figure entered the hallway. This time, it was my wife. She walked to my cubicle, sat in my chair, turned on my computer. She typed for exactly 8 seconds, then looked up at the camera. Her eyes were completely black, no whites. She smiled widely, something my wife never does that way. She smiled widely, something my wife never does that way. Then she stood up and left. At 3:12 a.m., my wife was at home, asleep. I watched the footage at 8 a.m. heart pounding, while she brushed her teeth in the bathroom. I showed her. She laughed, but there was terror in her voice. "Is this a prank?" she asked. "Why are my eyes like that?" I didn't know. I called ADRA again. A different person answered. I said, "Observation deck 12. He said, Describe the duplicate. Describe the duplicate." I told him. He asked, "Are there any reflective surfaces in your office? Mirrors, windows, facing windows?" I said, "We have glass walls." He said, "Cover them at night." I laughed. He didn't. He moved on to say, "They see through mirrors. They come through cameras sometimes. Don't feed them attention. They want to be observed. If you see yourself when you're not supposed to, look away." Then he hung up. For the next month, I saw us everywhere we weren't. In the reflection of a bus window, I saw me sitting alone on the bus at 2 a.m. Though I was standing on the sidewalk at noon. In the security camera feed of our apartment elevator, I saw my wife with wet hair getting in at 4:15 a.m. and going to the basement. So he was upstairs with me watching TV. In a live stream of the Space Needle observation deck, I saw both of us standing against the glass, staring out at a city, not moving while the crowd shifted around us. Each time, the other us looked at the camera and smiled. It wasn't a joyful smile. It was recognition. I stopped checking cameras. I turned away from reflective surfaces. We closed the blinds. We stopped watching ourselves. The duplicates didn't stop. One night, the smoke detector went off at 3 a.m. I grabbed a baseball bat and crept into the living room. The TV was on, static. In the static, faintly, I could see the outline of our couch and two figures sitting on it, watching us. They turned their heads slowly and toward the screen. I unplugged the TV. The static continued for 2 full minutes before fading. My wife whispered, "What do they want?" I said, "To be seen." In August, the ADRA man called back. He said, "We're upgrading your building's cameras to a closed loop." I didn't know what that meant, but he and 2 other techs came later that week, installed new hardware, and left. The duplicates haven't appeared on our office cameras since, but I still catch them in the corner of my eye, just outside where the security cameras would see. I'll be walking downtown, and in the reflection of a storefront, I'll see myself standing still, hands at my sides, smiling with black eyes. I'll keep walking, not looking directly at it. My wife says she sees a woman who looks like her in the reflection of the bathroom mirror when she brushes her teeth, just behind her shoulder. She doesn't turn around. I think about the observation deck at the Space Needle. All those tourists with cameras, reflections, reflecting reflections. I wonder how many other us's are out there, waiting to be seen. I wonder if by watching them, we created them. I don't watch anymore. I don't check the feeds. We cover our mirrors at night. I pass a window at dark and catch a glimpse of my face. I don't look at it. Maybe that keeps them away. Maybe not. Maybe they're there whether or not we look. Maybe they're waiting for us to come through. I really don't care. Surveillance Anomaly File NF-309. Recommendation: Restrict external camera access for non-essential staff. Continue monitoring duplicants. Phenomenon. Report to Mirror Task Force. End log. Anon log NF-412. Abandoned house haunting. Source: online messaging board. Date: 2021. Time: varied. In 2021, my friends and I began hanging out in abandoned houses around our small village. After exploring a couple of buildings, we noticed a third house we hadn't seen before. It was locked, but we forced the front door and found a chair propped behind it. The house was unusually tidy, except for one room filled with clothes. The bedroom had a locked door. After we pried it open, it slammed shut by itself. A few minutes later, locking us in despite the broken lock, eventually we freed ourselves. We carved our names into the wall and took souvenirs, knives, a small hammer, church candles, gas masks. Before exploring further, in a hallway, we found a mirror on a table, facing a mirror on a wall. Psychocomantium. Descending into the basement, all three of us were hit with a sudden, intense headache. One friend nearly fainted. Shaken, we made the house our secret meeting place. An admittedly foolish decision. Over subsequent visits, we took photographs. In one selfie, my friend's head appears skull-like, like her eyes nearly white. A small white circle floats behind her in the reflection. In another picture, a pale shape stands behind my friend's shoulder, though no one else was visible and no light source could explain it. We later realized these anomalies only after we had left the house. We also discovered that one of the mirrors had captured a white, amorphous form near the doorway. On our third visit, we invited another friend and rearranged books and photos. She hung several pictures of unknown people on the wall without knowing the context. That night at 2 a.m., one friend's mother awoke crying from a nightmare. She had seen a woman with skin as white as snow, who warned that we had done a bad thing and must return everything we took. Mother knew nothing about our thefts. Disturbed, we returned to the house and put every object back where we found it, and apologized aloud. As we walked away, I saw a small white silhouette of a woman in the attic, watching us before turning away. Ever since, we rate the house politely when passing. The story illustrates the hazard of trespassing and taking artifacts from abandoned structures. The anomalous photographs in the mother's dreams suggest something wanted its belongings returned. Skeptics might note that dust, lighting, and pareidolia often produce ghostly shapes and reflective surfaces. Oppressive atmosphere could stem from mildew or chemicals in the basement. Nevertheless, the combination of unexplained sounds, headaches, self-locking doors, and prophetic nightmares unsettled us enough to swear off exploring such houses. Archival note: this account combines physical anomaly, self-locking doors, disorientation, with photographic distortions, and an apparent warning in a dream. Mirrors facing each other recall psychocomantium ritual and mirror-related events in NF-530, mirror in the basement, and NF-283, second reflection. The mother's warnings align with the folklore about spirits attached to personal belongings. Return in stolen objects, resolve the disturbances. Skeptical interpretations include camera artifacts, chemical fumes, causing headaches, and confirmation bias. Compare with structural anomalies in NF-678 Echo House and NF-487 Corridor Without End. End log.